Check it out now. No doubt now.
Thursday morning, September 20th, 2018, the Beating the Book podcast, Megapod Week 3 in the National Football League. It's Gil Alexander, as always, the show brought to you by the good folks over at The Score X, TheScorex.com. You may recall that secret football stock market dealio that I've been talking about for all these years. Well, now it is here. You can set up a pool with you and your friends. Just go to thescorex.com and download for iOS or Android. It's 100% free to start a league right there, right now. And also when you sign up, you're entered automatically into the ScoreX Big Pool. Top trader of the upcoming season wins $5,000. The sooner you sign up, the more chances you have to build your bankroll and win. In other words, if you wait till after week 10 or something, probably can't build it enough to win that $5,000. So get in there right now at thescorex.com. And if you enter the promo code GIL, that's GILL, well, then at the end of the regular season, if you're the number one Score Xer with that promo code, number one Beating the Book podcast listener, in other words, at the Score X, you'll be the guest on the Megapod. You'll be sitting in our guest chair for Wild Card Week with me, Ace, and Marco. Again, that's thescorex.com to find all the download links. Simply the coolest thing I've done football season for many, many years. On the show today, our staples, as always, from wagertalk.com, 35-plus years into business. Marco D'Angelo. Good morning, Marco.
Good morning, Gil. Did you mention the stipulation that the winner of that contest has to bring the donuts for Wild Card Weekend?
I did not know that. You guys have like 15 more weeks to add stipulations, so I'm sure this may not be a prize they want by the end of this. On my left, out of the sports betting diaspora, a word apparently he never knew what the definition of was for all these years. Ladies and gentlemen, Ace.
All right, never better, brother. Unfortunately, 0-2 on your show, and that's got to change quickly. It's a long season, but not how I wanted to come out of the gate for the show. So just need to put that out there.
All right.
You know me, I'll stand behind my picks and definitely bet them myself. So not too happy about those results, but long season ahead.
Long season.
We're fine.
Many weeks to get that improved. Our guest today, our rotating guest for the day, we've had him on before. We've enjoyed his time with us. That's why we have him on again. From Clear Data Sports, Metrics Mike. Good morning, Mike.
What's up, Gil? It's good to be back. Marco, I've got my coffee and donuts right next to me. I'm ready to roll. Won't need any breaks this week.
All right. Ready to do it. From a soundproof room? Is that where you're doing this show?
That's right.
All right. It's like Family Feud in here. Ready to go, guys. This is how it works. Again, Monday night, Sunday night. Then we'll touch upon your pick for a Sunday daytime play. We'll touch on the Thursday game and then the final two questions of the show. As always, the game you want no part of, the big favorite you believe is most likely to lose outright. Let's start with the Monday nighter. Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, yes. And by oh, yes, I mean, oh, God. What a team turmoil that is. Pittsburgh Steelers are 1-point favorites right now as we do the show on Thursday morning. Pittsburgh Steelers, 1-point favorites on the road consensus. Actually, I'll call it 1.5 offshore consensus at Tampa Bay. Pittsburgh with Le'Veon Bell still absent, and this past week, Antonio Brown throwing a fit, responding to a former team employee on Twitter. Trade me, find out what happens. Not exactly his words, I think I'm paraphrasing, but you get the idea. Trade me and let's find out what happens. When he was criticizing Antonio Brown, saying that Antonio Brown basically was the product of having Big Ben on the team. And then there's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2-0. Everybody feeling good. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 2 straight games, 400 yards, 4 touchdown passes apiece, in place of the suspended Jameis Winston, who groped an Uber driver, allegedly.
You can't do that? You're not allowed?
You're not allowed to do that, Ace.
When they put that rule?
It's kind of unspoken.
Yeah, I'm going to start using Lyft from now on. I didn't know that was in effect.
And Ryan Fitzpatrick wearing Deshaun Jackson's clothes at press conferences. All good in Tampa, and yet Pittsburgh favorite. Mike, how do you see this game? When I asked Warren Sharp on VSiN this morning on a numbers game, and I asked him the question that I ask you guys at the end of every show, which is, what's the game that you want no part of? This was his game. How do you feel about it, Mike?
Yeah, week 3 is one of my favorites because especially in these 0-2, 2-0 type situations, everybody kind of knows 1 week, everybody, they're not as good, not as bad as a team looks. But right when the market sees 2 games, they suddenly think, oh, maybe that's enough sample size to make some pretty heavy conclusions. Of course, I don't think we know as much about these teams as we really think we do. So the individuals that have had the most success with sports betting, that from what I've seen, are the ones that use a model to kind of get 80% of the way there, but then they add 20%. That extra 20% they kind of filter using some subjective analysis. So kind of understanding where the models are strong, but then also understanding where the models can break down. And I think that's a pretty good example here. Steelers with kind of the organizational issues, seeing some player dissension. You can't really model any of that accurately, but also I don't think we can kind of subjectively know truly what's going on either from the media perspective of what's going on in that locker room. So I kind of fall in the boat that every single player on the field is individually incentivized to play for future contracts. So future contracts, but also kind of what to get paid on their contract that they currently have right now. So if anything, I'm looking at the Steelers. I can't disagree. I was going to say that exact same thing. Probably a stay away for me. The model really likes Pittsburgh Steelers. We model based on offensive line, defensive line, and secondary. And the Steelers are really, really good in those departments. So we have the Steelers winning by about 7, but really hard to have confidence that what's going on in that organization. But I would lean Steelers or nothing as of right now.
Steelers 0-1-1, by the way. I'm not sure if I called them 0-2 earlier. Obviously, they had the tie with the Browns week 1. Pittsburgh secondary badly missed Joe Hayden last week. He sat out with a strained right hamstring. A lot of communication issues all over the place, too, when it came to the Steelers without Hayden last week. Big Ben shook off an achy right elbow, limited in practice during the week last week. He completed 39 of 60, obviously much of that trying to catch up to the Chiefs last week. 452 yards, 3 touchdowns. But Ryan Fitzpatrick for the Bucs last week against the Eagles, 27 of 33 for 402, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. The Bucs, who haven't made the playoffs since 2007, are 2-0 for only the second time in 13 years. I'm glad you said what you said, Mike. When it comes to modeling. And I have always said, and that's why I love doing the VSiN show, I love doing this podcast. It's the reason I did a podcast for so many years and decided to do one so many years ago, which is I'm fascinated by all psychology when it comes to betting, how people deal with adversity emotionally or very stoically. It's a reflection of the human condition. And when it comes to handicapping, there's a spectrum, right? There's the most mathematical guy on the one side. There's the most smoke and mirrors guy on the other. And I've often said that the right answer often comes somewhere in between. And you'll see arrogance on each side, right? You'll see the most mathematical guy think that the way that everybody else does it is just bullshit. And you'll see the most smoke and mirrors guy say, numbers are bullshit. But really, I love what you said there, which is in your philosophy, and I'm kind of just like you, 80% of it, modeling. But subjectivity matters, and if you're not actually watching and you're not actually paying attention, then you're probably doing it wrong too, and the Pittsburgh Steelers might be Exhibit A of this right now. Marco, no one closer to the Steelers than you. What do you think here?
Well, no question the Steelers are a mess right now, and Antonio Brown, you notice he always manages to create more drama whenever it is a nationally televised primetime game, it seems, or they're playing the Patriots. Just shut up and do your work. That's what the Steelers need to do. And with the season where it is at right now, in 0-1-1, and you might have said 0-2. Well, when you tie the Browns, that is a loss. Okay, so for me, it's 0-2. The Steelers, you've got to almost consider this as a must-win situation for them, even though they're in one of the weaker divisions. Suddenly, Cincinnati is 2-0. We know that Baltimore's improved this season. And let's be honest, even though they're still winless, the Cleveland Browns are not the same Cleveland Browns talent-wise than they've been the last few years. They're still making the stupid mistakes at the wrong time, albeit the kicker last week in numerous attempts. But this is a team that is heading in the right direction, at least on the football field with talent. For the Steelers, Joe Hayden, that was a big loss last week. Also a big loss was DeCastro on the offensive line. We just blow by these offensive line injuries. He's supposed to be back this week, and that's huge. The Steelers, double-edged sword last week. I've told you from week 1, I've made no bones about it, how bad the Steeler defense is. And last week, falling behind 21-0, it totally took the Steelers' running game out of the mix. They had 13 rushing attempts last week. That's not Pittsburgh Steeler football. I know when you think of the Steelers, you think of, that high-octane offense, but it's generally a lot more balanced than it was last week. Ben cannot be throwing the football 60 times and win a game. So I think this week you're going to see the Steelers with a conscious effort to come out of the gate and run the football more. Also for the fact that when you run the football, that's the best way to help your defense, to keep them off the field as much as you can. Everybody's looking at the numbers that Fitzpatrick's put up the first 2 weeks, and that he has been marvelous. There's no question about it. And in my mind, there's no question that he should continue to be the quarterback no matter what happens on Monday night when Winston comes off of the suspension. But let's look at who he's played. Last week or 2 weeks ago, he played the Saints. The Saints defense has problems again. We thought it was fixed last year. All of a sudden, the Saints defense is bad again. Last week against Philadelphia, I think it was more of a case, and this is where you add in some intangibles. These good teams like Philadelphia, the Rams, and everybody that pretty much had their team set heading into the preseason didn't play starters a lot. And by not playing their starters a lot during the preseason, these guys are not at max fitness. In playing in the heat last week in Tampa Bay, I think really hampered Philadelphia in the second half with that defense. The Steelers are not going to face that. One, it is the third week, so they should be more fit, and this is not a day game in Florida. It's a night game. This is a game the Steelers need. I think they get it. I'm going to go ahead and take the Steelers. We're getting line value because of the overreaction. I'll go with Pittsburgh on Monday night.
Yeah, if I play a side here, God, I don't know. I feel the same way about this game as Warren does, which is I want to play the Steelers. I just can't seem to pull the trigger on it. You sound very passionate about it. I am noting that, that's for sure. And now, ladies and gentlemen, a man who is enthusiastically downloading the Lyft app because somehow he deduced that if you can't grope Uber drivers, apparently you can Lyft drivers. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ace. Did we lose Ace?
Taking it all in. Now, here if you're a value bettor, this one's easy. I mean, it's a no-brainer. If you're just looking for value, Pittsburgh's the side, and there's few times during the year you're going to get this kind of value. And what I mean by that is where the line has been adjusted so significantly based on a small sample size of results. All we've seen is 2 football games. And yet, if you wanted to bet this game right before kickoff of week 1, you would have had to lay 6 with the Steelers.
Yeah.
That was just 2 weeks ago. Steelers were -6.
Yeah.
Last week, if you wanted to bet this game, Steelers were -4 on the look-ahead line. Now they're down to -1. So, a coin flip, -115 on the money line, pretty much. In 2 weeks to adjust 6 points to me without huge injuries, like a Aaron Rodgers type injury, isn't justified. It's not warranted. Now, we may find out in week 6, 7, or 8 that this is the case, and maybe Tampa should have even been favored. But as of right now, what we have to go on, Pittsburgh's the value side in this game. As good as Fitzpatrick's played, again, coming into the season, the talk was if we could just win one of the first 3 games that Winston's suspended, Bucs will be fine. They'll be okay. Now all of a sudden, it's let's sit Jameis Winston and let Ryan Fitzpatrick take over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. To me, I don't get it. All the love. So I think that the Steelers is the obvious side, just value alone. And I always say this: getting the best of it doesn't guarantee you nothing. Don't guarantee you shit in the short term. I mean, like I say, me and you could flip a coin, and I could give you 10-1, and we flip it one time. I win. I walk away. You got the best of it, but I won. That's it. Now, if I flip it 10 times and I keep giving you 10-1 or the other way around, one of us is going broke. That's guaranteed. But so getting the best of it on Monday night doesn't guarantee you're going to cash a Pittsburgh ticket. But if you keep doing that exercise over and over and over again, where you're getting line value, you're going to come out ahead. And I think that's the case here, where I believe a Pittsburgh ticket in your pocket at -1 is giving you the best of it, win or lose.
Right.
I also think there's value on the under as well. From 50 now, we're looking at 54 out here in Vegas. Probably will go off even higher unless the betting syndicates get involved. And so far, I haven't seen any jump on this total. This has been nothing but the market moving it. And I just think it's going to be a little lower scoring than this number reflects. So for me, I think there's a ton of value on Pittsburgh, and I think this total's getting way out of hand as high as it is right now. Let's not forget, both the Steelers total 2 weeks ago was 41. So I get it, different opponent. But still, there's a big adjustment with the numbers. It's too much, too quick. It's only week 3, guys. Steelers and under. I think they're both great value bets.
2 votes for the Steelers right there from Marco and Ace, and a little bet there on the under as well from Ace. Sunday night, New England at Detroit. New England, right now, as you look across the board, consensus, they're 6.5. Well, they're 7-point favorites, too. It's pretty much even between 6.5s and 7s right now on the road, Sunday night at Detroit. Detroit coming off a much better performance than was the case week 1. Week 1, they just got boat raced by the New York Jets. Last week, for those of us who had the San Francisco 49ers against the Lions, that was not fun. Matt Stafford, garbage time extraordinaire, and the Lions cover in a loss. Actually might have won it if Jimmy Garoppolo hadn't gotten bailed out with a defensive flag on the Lions. But the Lions 0-2 right now. New England coming off a loss. New England lost to the Jaguars last week. Nothing shaky about that defeat. That was pretty convincing. Brady in defeat. Tom Brady, 24 of 35 for 234, 2 touchdowns, no picks. As I mentioned, Matthew Stafford, 34 of 53 for 347, 3 touchdowns, no picks, most of that in garbage time. Detroit in the third quarters thus far this year, for those who are into after the break referendums on Matt Patricia here in the early going, Detroit outscored 31-7 in the third quarter in their loss to the Jets, 14-3 by the 49ers in this particular game. So that's 45-10 third quarters combined. So Matt Patricia, whatever you're doing in the locker room at halftime, it ain't working in the third. Ace, we start with you on this one. Excuse me, Marco, we start with you on this one.
I was heading out for donuts. Gee, you're going to go to Ace.
Apologize. Forgot how this show works.
All right. Yeah. You have a regular show too. You run. It amazes me. Okay. Gil, this one comes down to really simple. You talked about Matt Patricia in his third quarter things. Things ain't too good coming out of the gate either. I'm not impressed with anything I've seen from Detroit thus far. And we look at New England, and that was an ugly, ugly loss last week. But let's face it, and you hear me talk about it all the time, that there's revenge and then there's playoff revenge. You always remember the team that ended your season. And Jacksonville, that was a huge game for them. It might have been the coming out party of Blake Bortles, and let's give Jacksonville coaching staff credit for not trying to, tell him don't lose the game. They came out and let him throw the football last week, and that was the key to them getting that victory. But here's all you got to know about this game, in my opinion. Bill Belichick off of a loss. The guy doesn't lose. Since he's been the coach of New England, coming off a loss of 10 points or more, it's happened 27 times. The following week, he's 21-6 against the spread.
Man.
Belichick, if you want to make that even a little bit smaller, off of a loss, upset loss. If he's a favorite and loses by 10 points or more, they're 14-3 the next week. And here's a stat that you would think would not be good. We all talk about home field advantage, and especially when it's a dome, how much louder it is playing in a dome and so forth. 20 times as a coach of New England, they've played in a dome. Belichick, 15-5 against the spread in domes. I'm on Belichick here, but I'll tell you, I'll be on him for the game and lay the points, but I'll tell you where I'm really going to be exposed. And if you see a sad face on me on Monday night, It's not going to be because they're late bringing my chicken wings. It's going to be that my teaser on New England went up in flames on Sunday night, because I'm going to have them teased with a lot of different candidates on Sunday, and so will a lot of the public. That might be the square teaser, but you want to give me Belichick versus Patricia? I'm there all day and pick the winner.
Well, that's the other headline, right? I mean, we kind of buried that headline, the fact that it's against one of his apprentices, if you will. That's certainly going to be, even though Belichick will never in his life admit to such a thing, that's obviously that much more incentive for him to perform well here with his ball club. And you are not alone. For sure you are not alone with that teaser, Marco. That is going to be a massive decision for sportsbooks. Sunday night games always are, but New England teased down to 0 at Detroit. Oh, man, everybody's playing that for sure. Ace, I apologize. I was in error. I should have gone to Marco first, but it's your turn now, sir.
No problem at all. Yeah, here's a game where it's just so scary to go against New England. I mean, we've talked about this now on your podcast for how many years, how, all the talk is if you bet against New England, if you bet New England, there's a premium attached, and, the books have to protect themselves, and you're always laying more than you should, and it over and over and over again. We hear that more times than not. Late on Sundays after the lines moved, we see the betting syndicates come in. They get involved going against New England, and the results have not been good. It hasn't been positive. You're not getting rich going against New England over the last decade. So that's why it's so scary, especially with all these trends when they're coming off a loss. To me, I think there's some value on this total. And here's one of the reasons why books are so afraid to put up a number, to be the first to put up a number. And you see sometimes out here they don't put up college totals till not hours after they're released offshores, but a day after they've been settled. This New England-Detroit total came out at 45.5 last Sunday night at around 6 p.m. when everybody's watching the Sunday night game. And within 30 minutes, it had moved 6 points. From 45.5 to 51.5 within 30 minutes. Pinnacle just kept getting hit. Half-point increments, just kept getting hit all the way up to 51.5. And now we're looking at 53.5, 54. Some shops are right around there. Some didn't open until it was 53. So you see why no one's in a rush to brag. They're the first to bring out the number in the NFL. But I think now that it's moved this significantly, like I said, well over a touchdown, exactly 8 points as of where it sits right now, and this may keep climbing, I think the under's the bet. And let's not forget, New England spent money on defense this year. That was their focus. And the focus for Detroit was that run game. I mean, you're looking at a team that since the last 3 years, they've had the worst rushing offense in all of the NFL. They haven't had a 100-yard rusher in 68 games. That's why they went out and drafted in the first round a left guard, and they moved up in the second round to grab a running back. They want to run the football. That's what this team wants to do. And as long as New England don't jump out to a 14-0 lead, I think this has a very good chance of being a much lower scoring game than that number right now reflects. At 45.5, 46, maybe even 47, I can see it, why the over money's coming in. But now at 53.5, that train's left the station. Win or lose, I don't think how you could be taking the best of it now if you didn't get down. You had 8 points to get down on the over. If you're going to wait till Monday night to bet it, to me it just makes 0 sense at all. You're better off passing. I don't care if they score 100 points. You're better off passing than on Monday night going over 53, 54, whatever it's going to be then, when just 7 days ago you could have got 8 points better. And if you're going to constantly take 8 points, the worst of it, I'll leave my number at the front desk. I'll start taking your action anytime you want. I'll give you 11-1 on 4-teamers, not 10-1 too. But it's just, to me, I look at it from a market perspective, and to me that's just a no-brainer. It's you go under or you leave it alone.
Speaking of teasers, by the way, which we did moments ago, and by the way, 53.5, as Ace pointed out, that is the consensus total on that game right now, Sunday night, between the Patriots and the Lions. Teasers, the notion of teasers. And I just had a big discussion earlier on VSiN this morning about it. We always talk about teasers on this show. 32 games thus far in the National Football League season. Week 3 obviously starts tonight. 28 of 32 underdogs have covered on teasers. 28 of 32 dogs have covered on teasers thus far this season. 3 times in Week 1, Buffalo, Indianapolis, and Oakland failed to cover. And once in Week 2, Arizona failed to cover. Just that. Everybody else, whether they do it easily or whether they do it through the back door, all the dogs covering on teasers thus far. We're talking about 6-point standard teasers. Whether that's just narrative of 2 weeks or predictive moving forward, you will decide. Mikey, what you got on this game?
I'll be brief on this one. We don't have really a strong opinion on this game, but we're doing some interesting work on coaching analytics this season. And just to briefly look at the Belichick coaching tree, so they haven't really had a lot of success. We're talking about guys like Eric Mangini, Romeo Crennel, Charlie Weiss, Josh McDaniels as a head coach, Jim Schwartz as a head coach. Bill O'Brien is interesting right now. He had some success in college, but we'll see how he's able to do with the Texans here this season. But Patricia is pretty interesting with an engineering background. He should, in theory, be able to kind of reverse engineer, even if Belichick wasn't exactly sharing all of his best information, which it kind of looks like he may compartmentalize with a lot of his assistant coaches. Even if he was doing that, I think Patricia has a good chance long term to reverse engineer a lot of the process and have success. But as of right now, it looks like maybe not able to emotionally connect with a lot of the players and kind of communicate. If he's trying to maybe kind of do the my way or the highway type thing without having the resume or the portfolio of success just yet, it might not be working with the players. I think long term I'd be buying his stock in that whatever that stock market game is, but right now I'm not too excited to jump on the Lions.
Yeah, Matt Patricia, it's funny with these first-time head coaches. Matt Patricia just appears to, I don't want to say he's in over his head, but he has clock management issues both games thus far this year where he just sort of lets the clock bleed for no reason, and you're like, why didn't you do that 30 seconds ago? So you definitely have question marks about him. Steve Wiltz in Arizona, I hope he's not in over his head. Through 2 weeks, it really looks like he might not have any answers just on quick observation. And then the other one is that drives me crazy. Marco, Ace couldn't make it on Monday night.
I'm buying dinner, baby. It's on me.
Cool.
It's on me.
All right,
I usually perfect attendance, like on the podcast. I take pride in perfect attendance.
You heard it, Marco. Dinner's on him. But we were watching the Bears and the Seahawks. Matt Nagy does not look up from his damn clipboard, right? His visor's on, his head is down, he doesn't look up, and for whatever reason, it drives me crazy. I thought I was the only one. I was talking to Mike Lombardi, who famously worked with Bill Walsh and Bill Parcells and all the greats in the NFL, a former NFL executive, Mike Lombardi, who now has his own book and his own podcast, and he was saying the same thing, driving him crazy about Matt Nagy as well. It is funny how with first-time coaches, if you're not winning early, we notice very quickly what the flaws are. So we'll see Matt Patricia in this game against his mentor, Bill Belichick, if those flaws are even more magnified on Sunday night. Dibs on Sunday afternoon. Ace, as always, we start with you.
Big problem for me because honestly, this week I really love this week.
It's like different from no other week.
No. This morning I had it narrowed down to like 5 in the NFL sides that I absolutely love, and I'm like, I'd be willing to pick from the 5 is so hard.
What are the 5 right now? If you could remember them, what are they? Just out of curiosity.
Colts, Carolina, Saints, Niners, Chargers. I would be willing to. Yeah, that's like 5-0, 4-1, 3-2. 3-2 if it's fixed against me.
Don't even have to watch the games, right? Don't even have to watch the games.
Don't even have to watch them. I'd be yeah. But I got it. I was going to use this for my the sprinkle, the underdog that could win outright. But I got to bank a win on the show, so I'm going to go for the one that obviously is the most line value you're getting, and that's no team finer than the 49ers this week. Listen, all this Kansas City love, I'm sorry, dude. Let me slow down that train real quickly. We've seen this last year, and I don't want to hear that was with Alex Smith. This is with Mahomes. What have you seen from Mahomes? Give me his NFL career. Tell me his career, and then we'll talk about it. Don't tell me 3 weeks, 2 weeks, preseason. That to me makes no sense. We saw this again with Kansas City last year. They beat New England. They come off to a 5-0. All of a sudden, they're the darling, and what do? They lose 6 of their next 7 games. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but I'm saying this. Prior to this season started, I don't think there's a single odds maker on the planet or wise guy that had Kansas City favored over San Francisco on a neutral field prior to the season, before the season started. There's no way. At the worst, it would have been a pick-em on a neutral field. At the worst. Probably San Francisco minus 1.5, most, if not 2, most power ratings would have reflected. After last week, all right, maybe you adjust a point. I'll shave that 1.5 down to a half. All right, let's make it a pick-em. So add in KC's one of the strongest home field advantages, and you're still getting way too many points. Listen, this look-ahead line we already know was 4. They open at 6. It's 6.5. You're going to get 7 on Sunday. I mean, this is a KC team already defined probability and the trend betters by winning week 1 and 2 on the road, something you rarely see in the NFL. But they did so against the Chargers and Pittsburgh, which both fell behind and ended up having to throw for over 400 yards each. So they became one-dimensional. You're not going to win in the NFL doing that. I get it. This is KC's first home game. They're all excited. Fans are going to be revved up. They have Denver to go to next week, a divisional game. And Garoppolo, pride on the line. Last year, the last 4 weeks of the season, all I kept hearing was Jimmy G, Jimmy G. That's all the highlights were. Now, after 2 games, the guy's 55% completions, and you don't even hear about him. It's all Mahomes, Mahomes, Mahomes. I think Jimmy G's going to walk in there with a little chip on his shoulder come Sunday. Again, I just think there's a lot of line value, too much line value to pass up on no team finer this week than the Niners. And I don't need the 7. I'll gladly take it on Sunday. It's 6.5 now. You know, you're going to give me that gift. I'm not going to turn it away. But I just think the line is just way out of whack.
Okay.
Based on 2 weeks of football. So, I love San Francisco in this spot. But there were 5 games I could have gave you. Pretty much all of them were close to the same result. They all should win, but we'll go with the Niners.
I understand your points, but since you asked, Patrick Mahomes, 23 of 28, 23 of 28 last week, 326 yards, 6 touchdowns, no picks, a 154.8 passer rating, 157.3 I believe is the max. He had more touchdown passes than he had incompletions last week. He had more. He's
going to do that for the rest of his career.
Oh, no, just letting you know what happened. He had more touchdown passes than the Chiefs had third downs last week. 6 touchdowns to 5 different receivers. Amazing stats from Patrick Mahomes, who tied the franchise record with 6 touchdown passes. By the way, just turned 23 on Monday. His 10 touchdown passes through 2 weeks are the most ever by a quarterback through 2 games in history. Chiefs scored 6 times, 6 touchdowns in just 27 minutes and 49-second time of possession last week against the Steelers. In fact, their longest scoring drive lasted just 3 minutes and 57 seconds. Chiefs, though, have allowed, on defense, 870 yards in the air through 2 games. Now, part of that blame, if that's the word, can be placed on opponents playing catch-up to, of course, that high-octane Chiefs offense with Travis Kelce, with Tyreek Hill, and Kareem Hunt, and more. So that's the Chiefs, but you're right. It's only 2 games.
They went from game manager with Alex Smith to bombs away with Pat Mahomes, and it's worked so far, but let me see what happens in a close game when you need a game manager. Let's see how that situation gets handled, and hopefully we see that Sunday.
San Francisco is one of the sides I'm considering for my Super Contest picks. Don't know if I can pull the trigger because there is this thought that the Chiefs could just outscore them just in a track meet. But you're right, Jimmy Garoppolo, who apparently was the second coming at the end of last season, not so much the second coming now. And by the way, again, if they don't throw that flag, he is a supreme GOAT for the Niners headed into this game. Matt Breida, 138 yards on the ground for the Niners last week. Chiefs favored by the consensus line right now, 6.5 offshore right now in that one. Ace going with the Niners. Mikey, your choice on Sunday.
So, Gil, I have a background in poker, and the more you study really deep strategy of the game of poker, you kind of learn that the key is to identify what strategy your opponent is playing, and then you can properly apply the right adjustments to build a counter strategy on top of that. And I see that as the way to beat the NFL as well. We all kind of know that the NFL, the odds makers are pretty good at setting lines, right? That's kind of common knowledge. But if you can identify one aspect that the market isn't properly pricing in, you can kind of piggyback on all the information that the bookmakers use to set that line, but then you can apply that new information that they're not properly pricing. That's kind of all you need to beat the market right now, quite honestly. So that's our goal at Clear Data Sports. Each year we try to choose one thing that the market's not properly pricing in and just put all of our resources into going deep into that topic. And this year, it's coaching analytics. Right now, these teams are getting a huge amount of data given to them by the leagues. But if they don't have the right process and the right people in place to process the information, they have no chance of keeping up. It's also really, really hard as the weeks go on and there's more and more data that accumulates from teams and teams you played against, teams that played similar type of opponents. How fast you process that information and draw meaning from the noise is a really, really difficult skill to do. So we went deep into studying actually LinkedIn. I gotta give credit to Greg. We have a member chat room each week in inside Slack where we kind of share ideas and especially live betting during games. We have kind of a set of eyes on each of the games and try to identify when a key player, a key lineman, or something happens in a game that we can be ahead of that market. But anyways, a guy named Greg in our member chat room, he went deep into LinkedIn and looked at all the organizations, what specific skills they're hiring, and more specifically, what organizations aren't hiring the skills that they should be hiring. And I think there's a lot of information that you can glean from that. And so my pick this weekend is going to be Washington +3. I think it's still +3 out there. But looking at Green Bay, it's largely a pick against Green Bay. It's an organization that is way behind in terms of hiring the skills that they need to hire. Rodgers has been pretty vocal about disappointment in bringing in another kind of poor offensive coordinator. And also the second point, along the same lines of with the market, when they see things that have happened twice in a row now, they're kind of a little bit too quick to form strong opinions. So Rodgers, everybody knows he has the knee injury, but we've seen him unbelievable performance in week 1, come back and get that win against the Bears. Week 2, he was an absolute wizard on third down against a really, really tough Vikings defense. So I think in the market's mind, it's kind of the same old Aaron Rodgers, exciting, really, really nice to have your money on him. But with that knee injury, that's really, really concerning, I think. It's easy for the market to kind of say, oh, he performed well. But I do see that as a huge concern. From what I read, it would take about two months to properly heal if he wasn't doing anything. Of course, he's playing NFL games every single week, so I don't think there's any chance that he gets back to full strength, full season, especially in game. You run a really big risk of him going down and having your money on Deshaun Kaiser, which you might as well rip up your ticket at that point, I would think. But so I'm looking at the Washington Redskins. Our core model really likes them just based on the offensive line, defensive line, and secondary up against the Packers. The Packers signed Rodgers to that big contract, which, as kind of common knowledge now, if you do that, you have some major holes in the rest of your roster. So I know I heard what you said, Gil, about kind of the lack of home field advantage there in Washington. I think even if this was played on a neutral field, I think the range of results still heavily favor Washington in this game, and that's where I'm going.
Well, needless to say, Mike, I cannot get behind that pick. Not a chance in hell I could bet on the Redskins here just because I'm scarred for life. By the way, the paid attendance at FedEx Field last week was 57,013. Good seats in the second deck were still available well into the second half. It was the first non-sellout, the first non-official sellout of a Redskins home game since 1967. And I throw in the word official there because that motherfucker hasn't been sold out since forever. When they went up from RFK to FedEx Field overnight, it went from the greatest stadium experience of all time to the worst. And their play on the field has created, the confluence of those two things has created an apathetic fan base, a jackass owner who makes people move seats without telling them in the offseason. I have a bevy of friends in D.C. who have had Redskins season tickets through the generations, their father, their grandfather, and just because of that legacy, they have held on to them for all these years, and enough is enough. Everybody has finally gotten rid of them because they just can't stand it anymore. So the crowd support is waning for sure. I just don't believe in the Redskins right now. I don't think they have any wide receivers. I'm not sure if you key in on their running game what Alex Smith does. Jordan Reed would be his only guy at that point because really it's all about Jordan Reed, and God forbid if he leaves that lineup. I like Alex Smith, but I don't believe in the Redskins. I do agree with your concern about Aaron Rodgers. I really do wonder, all that said, I really do wonder if he's not playing with an injury that they're just not revealing. In other words, maybe it's even a torn ACL. Like I think so too. I don't know. I wonder what's going on there, and he appears concerned for sure. Rodgers 30 of 42 for 281 and a touchdown last week in their tie with the Minnesota Vikings. Mason Crosby 5 of 6. Missed the game winner in regulation, though, from 52 yards. No shame in that. Chris Thompson, by the way, the only other. I left out Chris Thompson. He really is the engine of the Redskins offense. 13 catches, 92 yards last week. So it's really about Jordan Reed and Chris Thompson. Really no wideouts, and one wonders about AP here in the early going. So you're taking the Redskins. I, sir, will not. Respectfully.
That's the fun of sports betting.
That's right. And the fun of having my scarring of this franchise take hold. But for me, it just doesn't feel like a game the Redskins show up and win.
I'll just throw into it. It's mostly a bet against the Packers. I think they're just overrated in general. I'll be looking to bet against them quite often throughout the rest of the season. Not super high on the Redskins either, but I think there are some pretty good signs for this spot.
As I've said about the Redskins since before the season started, they are so 7. Meaning they are so destined for 7-9, it's not even funny. Marco.
All right, Gil, we're going to stay with the total because we're 2-0 so far with totals. So it ain't broke. Let's not, don't fix it. And I'm going to go to.
I knew you could figure out that phrase. I knew you could get the phrase. Do not fix. Let's not fix it.
This is a spot where the public is just fell in love with Kansas City and what Mahomes has done. We've seen this total go up to as high. I have a ticket in my pocket that I got Tuesday night at Stations here in town, which we know is a square shop. But they had the total up to 57 on this game. We're seeing 56s around town right now. I'm going under the total. Pat Mahomes, yes, he has been fantastic the first 2 weeks. But let's not forget that he faced the Chargers and he faced Pittsburgh, 2 defenses that are not good. Now he's going to be facing San Francisco. And I'm not saying that San Francisco is a team that has a good defense, but they're going to come in here now with a game plan after what they've seen the first 2 weeks. And that game plan is going to be, we cannot trade points with Kansas City. We're not going to win that battle doing that. We need to run the football and get balance and try to kill clock. Teams have not run the football against Kansas City. If you look at their yardage that they've given up so far, you think they have a stellar rush defense, but it's just because, no, they've abandoned the run because they've fallen so far behind the teams. San Diego jumped out. Yeah, I said San Diego. The Chargers jumped out or fell behind 14-0 minutes into the game, and Pittsburgh was down 21-0. That makes teams one-dimensional, and you had quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger, that was able to keep slinging the football and bring their teams back. So uncharacteristically, we saw Andy Reid do something that he normally doesn't do, and that is he kept his foot on the gas in those games because those teams kept coming back. San Francisco and Jimmy G is not going to be a team that you're going to have to worry about coming back if they fall behind. Why am I pointing that out? If Kansas City does get one of those big leads here, Andy Reid's going to rear his normal, ugly head of playing conservative in the second half, especially with the big game on deck with Denver. He'll play that conservative style and milk the lead. He hasn't had the luxury yet to do that because the Steelers came back from 21 down and tied that game, so they had to keep scoring. I like this one under the inflated number. I kind of lean with Ace as well. If I had to play the game, I would be on the 49ers. But I have this as a 27-21 type game. I'm taking under for my best bet on Sunday.
Under Niners and the Chiefs for Marco as he continues the under train, hopefully. 2-0 thus far.
I had over last week.
Oh, I meant totals. I'm sorry. I'm doing three things at one time, Marco. Please. I'm sorry. I apologize. Distracted over here. Support for today's show, as always, comes from bookmaker.eu. Bookmaker.eu, an industry leader for close to 30 years. Pro players do consider them a must because they are first to post odds, take the highest limits, and here's the key: pride themselves on never having kicked out a winning player. I say this every week. I stop in my tracks on this every week and emphasize that point. Never having kicked out a winning player. That is so important to so many of us who do this seriously and professionally in faraway places. You can't say that about more than two places in this world, in my opinion. Bookmaker, a high-volume sports book best suited for the sophisticated player who understands sports betting as well as large recreational players, catered them as well. And Bookmaker's motto is where the lines originate. Chances are your sports book follows their line over at bookmaker.eu. And don't forget, now not only in-play betting, as they have always had over there, live betting, but play-by-play sports betting now over there. For the first time ever, sports bettors not only able to make wagers on a game as the live action unfolds, but also make wagers on the outcomes of the play-by-play action. Visit bookmaker.eu/Gill today. That's Gill to join and claim an exclusive 100% welcome bonus of up to $300. That's bookmaker.eu/Gill to join and claim your welcome bonus of up to $300. bookmaker.eu/Gill. All right, gentlemen, Thursday night football before we get to the final two questions. It is a barn burner. The Jets at the Browns. Someone check my pulse. Browns favored by 3. Before I go to you guys, let me start with this one, and then you can react to what I have to say. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that tonight is the night. I believe tonight is the night that the Hugh Jackson-led Cleveland Browns, they of the 132-1 record under his leadership, I believe they get their first win since December of 2 seasons ago tonight against the Jets. Now, here is the case that I make. 3 games in 11 days for the New York Jets. They lose a day traveling in that equation as well. Tyrod Taylor, very familiar with Todd Bowles' defenses. He went 3-2 with Buffalo in that division, the AFC East, against the Jets. Cleveland has played Big Ben and Drew Brees thus far this year, and their defenses have played well, even though they have nothing to show for it besides a tie in their record. Now they get a rookie quarterback, a shaky rookie quarterback, on a short week. Sam Darnold has been good, but he's had his moments. And the Cleveland defense, they've been much better than both defenses that Darnold has faced thus far, that of the Lions, that of the Jets. My hesitancy, new kicker with the Browns, Greg Joseph, but really, could he be worse than Zane Gonzalez, missing 2 extra points? And the big single reason why you have any hesitation when backing the Cleveland Browns is because, well, they're the Cleveland Browns. I should point that out. But here's the deal. If Cleveland cannot win in this spot, and I said this on the air this morning at VSiN, Sirius XM Channel 204 numbers game, 7 to 9 Pacific, 10 to noon Eastern. If they can't win in this spot, Hugh Jackson probably should be fired tomorrow morning. And I'm not the sports radio guy, the sports talk radio guy who says stuff like that. I fire this bum. But seriously, if they can't win in this situation tonight, what are they waiting for? Their crowd's going to be into it. It's going to be that rare home primetime game where the entire country is watching. And by the way, if they win, they're 1-1-1, and their season is very much alive. And Greg Williams is going to blitz Darnold tonight like nothing Miami or Detroit threw at him. Seriously, if they can't beat a rookie quarterback, short week, playing his 3rd pro game, 11 days, I don't know what we're doing here. Marco, let me start with you. Do you buy into what I'm saying, or are you like, no chance in hell I'm betting the Browns?
No, I agree with you 100%. I think that the 2 key elements that you mentioned for me, and it's what I have circled on the game, is the fact it's a short week, so you want to talk about being familiar with the team. Well, as you said, Tyrod Taylor faced the Jets many, many times in Buffalo. And second, for the flip side, you've got a stone-cold rookie that's got to prepare for a game on the road in 3 days. huge advantage to the Browns in that regard.
Yeah, I lean Browns too, and in fact, this is one of the games that the groups that I provide accounts for got down on right away. They don't usually bet NFL early, so I don't know if it was getting out ahead of the market. The only thing you usually see in the NFL is mostly a total or two, but the Browns is one of them that got immediate money. That's why you're looking at 3.5 in some spots and 3 minus 20 in the rest.
When is the Super Contest deadline for Thursday picks? Because I actually may make the rare Thursday pick. I have no idea what the deadline is today. I better put those in quick. Doing this Thursday morning. Mike, your thoughts on this one tonight?
I think you're right. Watching Hard Knocks, Browns were the absolute perfect team for that. It's so cool to see a behind the scenes kind of peek at these organizations, and watching Hugh Jackson. It seems like he had no interest in football. He just wants to be everybody's friend. Seems like the coolest guy in the world I've ever seen, but just like no interest in having anything football related valuable to say. And then if you watch All or Nothing, is a really good show that I don't think a lot of people have watched. It's kind of like Hard Knocks, but it's a little bit more inside access into actual team meetings, not so much of the personal storylines. So really, really fascinating. They had a Dallas season last year that the Cowboys kind of see inside their organization. And the Rams before that, where Greg Williams was the defensive coordinator. And he's just kind of the prototype of the old school kind of yelling head coach that doesn't really have anything schematically valuable to add, but he's just all about yelling at his players to try harder, try harder, try harder. I made the comment watching them blow that lead to the Saints over the weekend. I would give anything. I'd pay a lot of money to just listen to a dedicated mic on Greg Williams during that when they were blowing that lead. That would be priceless. But yeah, I think you're right in this spot about the Browns, Gil.
All right, let's do the final two questions, gentlemen. As always, we begin with the first one. Which of the big favorites this week in the National Football League do you believe is the most likely to lose outright? The Minnesota Vikings. I would love if one of you picked this. Minnesota, 16.5-point favorites, maybe 17 in some spots right now, hosting the Buffalo Bills. Philadelphia, touchdown favorites, maybe even some 6.5s out there, hosting the Indianapolis Colts. Kansas City, as we mentioned, 6.5-point favorites, hosting the 49ers. I think I might know where Ace is going with this one. Houston, 6-point favorites, hosting the Giants. Rams, touchdown favorites, 7 points, hosting the Chargers. And finally, New England, 6.5 on the road at Detroit. Which, Mike, we'll start with you, Metrics Mike from Clear Data Sports. Which is the big favorite, in your opinion, that is the most likely to lose outright?
Well, our model still uses quite a bit of data from last season, and if you just go by that, we like Arizona at home. But with that said, I'm overruling that. I'm not playing that. There's no chance. You alluded to it earlier. Steve Wilkes, I think that organization, it's the Carolina Panthers defensive coaching staff basically that took over the Cardinals organization. They have no chance to compete. They're way behind the times. So there's no chance I'm picking Arizona. But that is one where the model of actual players on the field might suggest that Arizona has a pretty good chance. But when you add Nagy, mad scientist, really smart guy to Chicago, Khalil Mack, that team they were really injured the previous 2 seasons, so they have a lot of frontline talent. The Bears do. When you add some of those subjective factors into the model, there's no way I'm playing Arizona. But that's one that the model might say. If I had to go, I'd probably take the Giants on the road at Houston, but I don't think I'm playing that one either.
Yeah, it's such an interesting question. The reason I ask it is because it does reveal certain things, and I'm with you on everything you say, which is the Chicago Bears shouldn't be 6-point favorites on the road against anybody, period. I don't care how good that defense is. Mitch Trubisky should not be 6-point favorites on the road against anyone. But then you look at Arizona, you're like, oh, good Lord, can I really back this team? And are they going to really win this outright? And I feel the same way about the Giants. Like, I can't in good conscience. Marco, biggest favorite, most likely to lose outright.
Well, I'm going with the Giants because I just don't trust this Houston team. This is a team that had a lot of buzz coming into the season because of what Deshaun Watson did last year in his first few games when he was in the lineup. And now they haven't done anything. And I'm really starting to question Bill O'Brien as a head coach. He did a marvelous job when he was at Penn State, coming in and, saving that team whenever they had all the turmoil at Penn State. I thought he was going to be a good fix, but, man, he's ruining quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson does not look good right now. And as bad as the Giants are, and I think that, everybody's going to overreact to what they saw in the Dallas game, this is still a good defensive team. And you give me a good defensive team getting points, I'm going to look at that, especially this size. And I just don't trust Houston as a favorite. These are 2 0-2 teams, and how easy is it going to be for the public to jump on Houston? Oh, they're returning home. They had a tough start, 2 road games, blah, blah, blah. Not buying into it. I'm on the Giants.
So your answer would be the Houston Texans is the team with of the big favorites most likely to lose outright.
To be upset.
Yeah. I'll say what I said last week whenever it comes to the Giants, and I'll just say it under my breath. I can't bet on Eli Manning to do anything, anytime, anywhere. Right now, by the way, if we had a live shot of the stadium in Nashville where the Texans played last week, the stadium is empty. All the teams have left the field, but Deshaun Watson is still out on the field looking for a receiver on the final play of the game. he's still, any second now, he's going to throw that ball. Ace, which is the big favorite you think is most likely to lose outright?
All right, I'm going to give you a different play to give the listeners something, to cheer in, and because I'll be on this team as well, and that's the Indianapolis Colts over Philadelphia.
Wow.
I think this is a spot, the very winnable game for the Colts. I mean, we already seen the hangover for Philadelphia from winning the Super Bowl, but more importantly, let's not forget, the Colts replaced Pagano with former Eagles offensive coordinator Frank Reich. If he don't know this Philly team, nobody does. I think that gives Indianapolis a little edge here, and I wouldn't be surprised they go in there and shock this Philadelphia team by winning this game outright.
Good point.
Give me the Colts. Give me the Colts.
Good point on Reich. Reich leaving the Eagles to go coach the Colts. If you had to choose one of those, though, Ace, based on what you said earlier, would it be the Eagles or would it be the Chiefs that you would feel are the most likely to lose outright?
I think the Chiefs. Oh, damn it. Honestly, it's a toss-up because where that line sits, I think both are prime for an upset, man.
Okay.
I really do.
Bet them both.
Yeah, it's got a money line parlay written all over it, plus 235 on each. That sounds good to me. Plus 240 in some spots.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a sprinkle parlay written all over it. The sprinklers, turn the sprinklers on. Don't just sprinkle. The sprinklers are coming on Sunday.
Sprinkle me, man. Sprinkle me, man. Sprinkle me, man. Sprinkle me, man.
All right, final question then. If we lived in a bizarro world and you were forced to bet a side with your hard-earned money on each and every one of these games, but you were allowed one game where you were like, you know what, please. Mikey, you might have mentioned a bunch of them already. Which would be the single one that you would want no part of?
Yeah, Oakland-Miami is another one where it's that 0-2 team versus a 2-0 team. Always looking to back the 0-2 team. Oakland has some issues though, kind of like with the Steelers, kind of some of those offensive line issues, some of the coaching issues, some of the with the player trading. I'm probably staying away. Miami's a team that has a lot of young talent that a lot of people don't know about just yet. I think Adam Gase is a really, really smart head coach, and he's kind of had some time to implement his system, and he's sneaking up on the market right now. So the model, some of the historical data still suggests Oakland might be a value in that spot, but I just don't want to touch it because Adam Gase is really smart. I think the Miami Dolphins are a pretty good underrated team in general.
Through 2 weeks, everything I've said about John Gruden has come true. And that was before he was asked, what does this team need? Well, good pass rushers are hard to find. You idiot. If only I could think of someone who you could use. Marco, which is the game you want no part of?
Well, Mike already talked about it, and I'm really shocked that that's not the one he went with. All you got to do is answer the 2 questions. Do you want Chicago as a road favorite?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Do you want Arizona as a home dog?
No.
So,
yeah.
so we just take the pencil and just cross this game out. If this was a horse racing program, scratch. The team is not there. Not even looking at that game.
Totally a scratch game. I completely agree. Ace.
The only thing I will add with that game is I think that was the biggest mover of the week as far as look-ahead line to what we got. I mean, as far as the perception having changed, the market drastically changing. And what I mean by that is you wanted to bet this game last week. The Bears were minus 2.5.
Yeah.
Now they're, 5.5, 6. Big adjustment. Maybe warranted the way Arizona looked, but, I always am cautious when I see that quick of a move, especially behind a team like the Bears.
It's a great point. I'm glad you bring it up for not just this game, but for multiple games. But you're right. There is that question then you have to ask yourself, which is, okay, by the number, this is a complete recency reaction. Is it justified, though? In some cases, it might actually be.
Yeah, exactly, and time will tell.
Yeah.
And it's good if you could get out ahead of the market and see that stuff before anyone else. So I'm all for that. If you really think they're that wrong, then yeah. For me, the game to leave alone is Denver-Baltimore. I mean, Denver's 2-0. They haven't won the turnover battle yet. I don't even think they've covered. They think a push the first game. They're 2-0 by a combined 4 points, both of those games at home. And now it's their first road game against a Baltimore team with extra time. But I don't know much about Baltimore. I mean, they blow out Buffalo by 40-something points and then, lose to a division rival in Cincinnati on primetime Thursday Night Football, where they turned the ball over 3 times and couldn't even run the football at all. So for me, I just don't know how to even approach that game, so that's a pass for me.
All right, Marco D'Angelo from Wager Talk, Ace from Out of the Diaspora. Thank you, gentlemen, as always, for your time and your consideration, thoughtful remarks. And from Clear Data Sports, follow him at Clear Data Sports. Actually, you can follow him at Metrics Mike as well. On Twitter, it's Metrics Mike from Clear Data Sports. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks, Gil.
All right, Week 3, National Football League. Good luck with all your bets. And as always, thank you so much for listening.
Welcome, everybody, to the MMQB Gambling Podcast. I am your host. Not really a host, I'm a co-host, but I have to intro, so I'll say host. Jimmy Traina, with my co-hosts, senior editor of MMQB, Gary Gramling, his brother, managing editor of the DRF Sports Forum, Scott Gramling, week 2 in the NFL. I went 2-1-1 in my best bets last week. Gentlemen, how'd you guys do?
3-1 for me. And, Gare?
2-2.
Even Steven. We all, look, I mean, you always have to throw the caveats in. We all had the Giants, right? And if they just, what were they, about a foot short of that 2-point conversion, would have covered or would have pushed. We got it at 3.
And this is a gambling podcast, so we got to stick to the lines and all that. But NFL coaches still have no clue about when to go for 2 points. There was no way they should have went for 2 there.
We're so angry about that, Jimmy.
Because if you miss the 2, you're down 5. Jacksonville comes down, kicks a field goal. Now you're down 8. You have to get a touchdown on 2 points. Just kick the extra point, go down 4. There's 10 minutes left in the game. NFL coach is still clueless with the 2-point.
I would have gone for 2. But I wouldn't have handed the ball to the guy who was out of breath after just running 80 yards or whatever it was for time. I know it was an 80-yard touchdown, but the amount of yards he ran to get into the end zone, I don't think you just hand it to the guy in the 2-point conversion. Anyway, cost me from a perfect week, but hey, we're moving on.
So I had winners with the Rams and Bears, pushed with the Broncos, lost the Giants. What were your picks, Scott?
I had the Rams, Panthers, and as half
Chiefs.
the free world knows, I loved the Chiefs.
And Gary, what did you have last week?
Oh gosh, let's get the Cardinals out of the way and never speak of it again. I had the Panthers and the I lost the Giants too. I had the Panthers as a winner, and who was my other one? That was
Giants.
The Rams. Sorry, yes, the Rams. Yep.
If you go back into the archives, Gary, the 2 teams Gary was on in the preseason were Arizona and Detroit. But we'll skip that. We'll get right to the week 2 lines.
I'm jumping off one bandwagon, and it's not the Lions.
All right.
Sticking with the Lions for now.
That's a tease for the show. Speaking of the show, this is the MMQB Gambling Podcast. We're here every Friday. MMQB, though, their feed has podcasts every day of the week except for Tuesday. You can check them out on themmqb.com, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. So check out all of the NFL podcasts we have on SI.com throughout the week. And I, of course, have the SI Media podcast every Thursday. This week's guest is Gus Johnson, and it was a very good interview, so check all that out.
They're all very good interviews. You do a great job.
They're not all good. They're not all good. I rarely come away like, that was really good. Gus was really good, I have to say.
You pull some good guests, Jimmy.
I try.
You pull some good guests.
I try. So
Who doesn't love talking to this guy?
So podcasts all over SI.com. Gary's on a bunch of them, and probably on all of them talking about the Cardinal Lion NFC title games that he expects this season.
Monday morning, I was just softly weeping about the Cardinals.
All right, week 1 in the books. Week 2 is here, and this is, I think, always the trickiest week of the betting season. Because
you said that last week, Jimmy.
No. Week 1, you like to lay low to see what the teams are doing. Week 2, though, is all about the overreaction to week 1.
The false confidence,
yes. And you throw out everything you thought before week 1, all based on what you saw last week.
No, we throw out everything that Gary thought before week 1, and the rest of us move on.
I will mention Arizona and Detroit about 5,000 times in the next 40 minutes. All right, let's get it going. Week 2 in the NFL, we started off with the Redskins. Blasted Gary's Arizona Cardinals last week, giving 6 points at home to the Colts. Big total here, 47.5. Gary, I'll let you get it rolling since I keep teasing you about Arizona and Detroit. Washington -6 versus Indy.
Yeah, not crazy about this one. I'm curious to see the game flow here. I mean, Alex Smith is a game flow dependent quarterback. If they have to play from behind at any point, they're going to be in some trouble. I mean, look, the Colts aren't a defensive juggernaut, but you put Andrew Luck out there against what's an interesting but sort of mismatched Redskins defense, I'd say. I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts jumped, maybe 10 points in the first quarter type of thing. I could see that scenario. Like I said, I'm not crazy about it, but with the 6-point spread, I'll take the Colts in the points.
And Adrian Peterson, reborn in Washington after week 1. There's an overreaction people I think are going to have. Scott, I'm sorry. What are your thoughts?
I'm glad we're starting with this game. I thought this was the hardest game on the card to pick. I'm not sure which way it'll go. Therefore, I will take the points. Don't love it. It's a game I'm staying away from. I think there's still too much uncertainty because of the amount of turnover for both teams in the offseason, and I do count Andrew Luck as turnover. I know he's been their quarterback for several years, but because he didn't play last year, let's see if he's for. That was kind of a fluky game a little bit to a degree with the Bengals last week, so I'm taking a wait-and-see approach with these two teams, staying away from it. If I had to take it, I'd take the Colts because of the points.
The line here is high with 6, but I thought the Colts were one of the worst teams in football before the season started. On our podcast, which you can find in the archives where we did over-unders for the season, I said under 7.5 even if Andrew Luck is healthy. So I think the Redskins win the game, whether they cover. Like you guys, I don't know about the line. 6 is high, but I don't think the Colts are very good at all. So let's go on to the second game, and it's one of the better games of the week. Carolina, big win against the Cowboys at home last week. They visit the Falcons. Falcons at home giving 5.5, total 44.5. Scott, what do you got?
Love the Falcons. I absolutely love the Falcons in this one. Falcons, this is a head-to-head series that has been dominated by the home team in recent seasons, and you look at the Falcons and what they've done against the Panthers, 8-2 at home in the last 10 between these division rivals. 7 of those 8 victories have been by 7 or more points, so I'm not afraid of laying the points here. That includes victories by 15 and by 12 the last 2 seasons. I know I was all over the Panthers last week, and I was all over the Panthers last week because of the matchup, because the weakness of the Panthers is their secondary. We talked about it on the show last week. Dallas did not have the personnel to hurt the Panthers where they're most weak, which is in the secondary. Atlanta does. Julio Jones, last 6 games against the Panthers, has averaged 137.3 receiving yards. I think this is a case where the Falcons will hurt the weakness of the Panthers, which is the secondary. I think the Falcons look so bad in the Thursday night opener offensively. I think there's going to be some overreaction there to them. And I just think that having the extra 3 days to rest is going to be a key here. Now, I think naysayers might say Deion Jones is out, Keanu Neal is out. The defense is still fast, and I don't think Carolina has the kind of offense that can hurt Atlanta's defense. Atlanta's defense is still solid, not as solid as it was going into the season because they lost to those 2 guys, but I love this game. I love the Panthers laying the points, and
the Falcons.
I'm sorry. I love the Falcons laying the points against the Panthers. Thanks for correcting me there. And I just think it's a great pick, and I also do like when it all matches up. Taking in week 2, an 0-1 team going against a 1-0 team, and this matches up here. Falcons are the better team. They perform better at home in recent years against the Panthers. There's just so many reasons to back the Falcons in this one.
Gary?
Yeah, I actually I had the Falcons until Deion Jones went down. I switched over to the Panthers.
So you can say I had the Falcons until I just heard all that. Now I'm switching over.
No. I'm going Carolina here. Those injuries terrify me. Deion Jones and Keanu Neal. I mean, that is essentially the heart of your defense, especially your run defense with the undersized defensive line they have there. Panthers want to run the ball. We'll see. I mean, it was a lot of bells and whistles with the option game in week 1, and once that stuff's on tape, it becomes less effective. But yeah, on top of that, look, I think Matt Ryan is going to be fine. I think Thursday night was an aberration there, but I don't know. I don't know if they're ready to pick it up right now. I think the Falcons, maybe this is one of those games. Panthers grind it out a little bit. Maybe Falcons win by a field goal in the end. I thought the 5.5 point spread was too much for me, though.
I'm right there with you. I think that line is high, 5.5. Evenly matched teams here. Would I bet this game? You'll have to wait for the best bets, but I love getting 5.5 with a good Carolina team. And I'm at the point now where I might bet against the Falcons just based on their offensive coordinator because Steve Sarkisian is completely lost now in the red zone. He had a year to fix it and didn't fix it, as we saw in the opener against the Eagles.
You guys are going to regret this. I'm just telling you.
No, I didn't say I was betting it. Right. I'm just saying.
No, you're going to regret not betting it the way that you should be betting.
Story of my life.
I was just saying, the 2 guys the Falcons have replacing Jones and Neal, I mean, they are incredibly small. They are they're sub package all the time now. Panthers want to go big. They want to try and ram it down your throat. So we'll
big.
see.
Yeah.
That's a tall order for Duke Riley and DeMonte Casey, who's a 180-pound strong safety.
All right, next game on the board. I don't know if our producer extraordinaire Harry can play the trumpets. But we have some sad news. The Nathan Peterman era is over in Buffalo. And Josh Allen will get the start.
It might just be on hiatus. I mean, we thought it was over after the first half of the Chargers game last year.
It was over before it started, believe me.
It should have been over after 5 interceptions in the first half last year against the Chargers on the road. Let's be honest.
So Allen gets the start in Buffalo. The Bills are getting 7.5 points from the visiting Chargers as they come across the country after getting spanked by the Chiefs. Total in this one is 43.5. Gary.
Yeah, I'm going Chargers in this one. They were all right when they had to come east last year in those early games. I mean, they. I want to pull it up real quick. Of course.
The one thing about coming east, the one thing is, I think that used to be a bigger factor than it is because now, I mean, these guys are on planes that you can't even, or hotels basically. The travel isn't that bad.
Teams do a much better job managing it than they used to do. And I've been to the league office where they build the schedule and they have all these signs all over the room about body clock and stuff like that. They came east. They beat the Giants for their first one last year. They hung with the Patriots. That was my favorite play of the year was Travis Benjamin running a punt into the end zone for a safety, which ended up costing them the cover in that game. And they took Jacksonville to overtime in a game that they botched on the special teams again, because that's what the Chargers do. In the end, look, I like Josh Allen as a prospect. I think he might be a superstar in 5 years. This Bills offense is not functional. They cannot do it. The only way they hang around in this game is something like fluky special teams plays, weird turnovers, stuff like that. Chargers will serve those up, but I'm not betting on that.
The Chargers played so poorly last week, and I mentioned it last week. Once again, Joey Bosa out. If they were playing a real team, that might concern me, but it is the Buffalo Bills and a rookie quarterback who I don't love as a prospect. But Scott, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I don't like either side of this game. If I had to take it, I would take the Bills. It's just too many points to be laying on the road with a team I don't think is that good. And I won't go back into it. I went into it last week with the Chargers, and a mediocre team laying more than a touchdown on the road against any NFL team. And jury's still out on whether the Bills are an NFL team, but they do qualify as one at the moment. So. Staying away. If I had to take it, I'll take the Bills.
Total here, maybe it's me. Let's know what you guys think. 43.5 seems high for a team like Buffalo, which you don't expect to score many points at all. I mean, yes, I did say Bosa's out, but even how many points are the Bills going to put up this week?
If I had to bet, I'd take the over.
You would?
Yeah, I think it just feels to me like a very mistakey Keystone
Turnovers,
Cops type of games.
Six here and there.
And somebody's going to be dropping punts and stuff like that. It's going to be an ugly, sloppy game, but not in a defensive battle kind of way. No. I think in a more ineptness kind of way. And that often leads to overs because of a lot of mistakes where you should not be making mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, Allen is boom or bust. I think they score any touchdowns are going to be of the 40 or 50-yard variety, and it's probably going to be a lot of turnovers too.
All right, let's move on to a little division battle here. The Texans, 2-point favorites on the road at Tennessee. What a rough Sunday for about 87 hours in Miami. Total 44.5. Scott.
I'm going with the road favorite here. I am taking the Texans. It just, what a horrible first week for the Titans. I don't want to, I really try and stop myself from overreacting to the first week, but, not a lot of positives to take away from that game. And I just think when you look at the Texans and the kind of upside they have, I feel like, they've had the Titans' number in recent years, 11-3 against the spread in games played against Tennessee since the start of 2011. For those reasons, I'm leaning a little more than slightly toward the Texans here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going Texans. I'm going a little bit stronger in the Texans here. Like Scott said, terrible first week for the Titans, terrible summer for the Titans. A new coaching staff in there.
That's a good point.
Their entire defense has been. It's not the devastating, it's not the headlines of, torn ACL, all this stuff. They had 4 draft picks. Their first 2 draft picks were both hurt all summer. They can't get on the field. Morgan's banged up. Arakpo's banged up. They are severely running behind on defense with where that defense should be.
And on offense, they lose Delaney Walker last week.
Delaney Walker out. Delaney Walker is
top weapon.
He's the focal point of that offense. So yeah, they're
Which is a problem, but yeah, you're right.
Yes. They're in trouble here. Bill O'Brien's 7-4 against the spread versus division opponents on the road, and 4-0 as a road favorite as the Texans head coach. So I'll go Texans on this one. Nice little bounce back game for Houston as well after a sloppy start in New England.
This is probably the game, the game I have the least amount of feel for all week. I think the Texans are better. But, given 2 on the road here, who knows how Tennessee's going to react. Gary's right. Injuries on defense, Delaney Walker out. We'd tell you Houston -2 is the play, but not a game I don't love. This game is very interesting to me. I think it definitely will be one of the more fun games Sunday afternoon. Chiefs with that high-powered offense. And I know Scott's chomping at the bit, but I'm going to drag this out. Keep him waiting. The Chiefs, the juggernaut, visiting the Steelers, who come off that tie with the Browns. Steelers -4.5, big total, 53. I'll tell you right now, I'm betting the over. Scott, we'll let you get it rolling because the Chiefs are your team. Go ahead.
Chiefs are my team. I don't love this spot, though. I really don't like this spot. I feel like back-to-back road games is a tough spot. Since the start of 2009, a Week 2 road team that had to play on the road in Week 1, 6-24 straight up. And the average money line on that was less than +110. So those are, and the average final score, the point differential was 7 points. So the home team won by an average of 7 points in those 30 games. I think this is a Steeler team that is tough at home, and I think it's a tough spot for a young quarterback. So because of that, and how how much I love the Chiefs, I'm leaning ever so slightly to the Steelers on this
That's got to hurt.
I was gonna say.
You know what? You have to look at it week in and week out, and I do love the Chiefs. I loved them last week. I love them in the division because they dominate the division. But I think this is a very tough spot for them, and I do feel like the Steelers are going to. That was kind of an aberration, that game against the Browns. I feel like the Steelers sort of packed it in after 50 minutes and the bad fumbles at the end and all that. The Steelers should be every bit as good as the Chiefs, and with the home field advantage, it's a tough game. I wouldn't play the game. If I had to, I would go with the Steelers.
Gary?
Yeah, I'm going Steelers. I will say the only thing that gave me pause is the Joe Hayden injury, and I wonder if that sort of limits what the Steelers are going to be able to do defensively. Andy Benoit and I talked about this on the Deep Dive podcast.
What day of the week? Plug it properly.
There you go. It's coming out. No, it already came out.
Today's
Friday. It's already out.
Check it out.
It's a fast week when you get into the season.
Yeah, it's to beat Mahomes right now, I think what we have to do is it's disguise coverages, it's exotic blitzes and stuff like that. That's not what the Chargers do. That's not their defensive profile. That is what the Steelers can do. But with Hayden out, they can't cover. I mean, they can't cover Tyreek.
Sorry, you know how much I love Mahomes. I just love that. To beat Mahomes, it's so great because. We're already talking about him like that. In his 2 previous NFL starts.
In the larger picture, that's how you beat any young quarterback.
I hear you.
You show him new stuff, it's not the speed of the game that gets to young quarterbacks. It's the new stuff they see that they don't see in the preseason because no one does it there.
I just love the level of respect that he is getting. I don't have my Mahomes jersey yet, but it'll be soon.
No, it's and I mean, you guys remember last year after Ben threw the 5 picks against Jacksonville, and everyone said Ben's done. Ben was not done. Right. If you didn't follow the rest of the season after that. Look, it's going to be a beautiful day in Pittsburgh. Steelers are going to roll up points here. I'm a little bit nervous about the over, though, Jimmy, because what the Steelers have done the last few times they played the Chiefs, they get in those 3 receiver packages. The Chiefs have that sort of small front that they put up, and then the Steelers just ram the run down their throat.
Listen, I think this is going to be up and down points, whether it's running, passing. The minus 4.5 for the Steelers, I don't have a feel for, but over 53, I think this game's got 37-28, 34. 30 written all over it.
It's the Mahomes factor. Say it, Jimmy. Mahomes factor.
But it's not just Mahomes. I mean, the Chiefs have weapons all over the place. I think the Chief defense stinks. I don't think the Steeler defense. Everyone thinks the Steelers have one of the top defenses in the NFL.
No.
I think we're going to see on Sunday that you're going to be able to move the ball on Pittsburgh. I see nothing but points in this game. I don't see many defensive stops in this one. So I like the over, big number. And when you have a big number like that, it usually scares off some people. That's when you go over. Just a little tip for you there.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. This game here is very interesting. I'm going to contradict myself when I analyze this game, but the Jets are at home giving 3 points to the Dolphins. The total is 43.5. The reaction to the Jet win on Monday night, to me, is over the top for one reason. Darnold played great. You want to say the Jets have a quarterback, Darnold's the future. I have no problem with that. But then when you come out after the game and you say you knew every play that was coming, well, then you should blow out the team. So let's relax a little bit with how bad they beat the Lions. Having said that, I love the Jets -3. At home, rookie quarterback, crowd's going to be fired up. I don't think the Dolphins are any good. I mean, they beat a bad Titans team at home with, rain delays all over, big deal. You're only laying a field goal at home. That crowd's going to be insane. And the Jet defense is good. I love the Jets -3 in this game, although it's not based off of last week. Like I said, you don't want to go crazy off week 1. So it's not based off blowing out the Lions. And again, take the blowout of the Lions with a grain of salt because the Jets got 5 interceptions claiming they knew every play. So you're supposed to win that game. So I'm all over the Jets here. Scott?
I like the Jets here. I don't love the Jets. I don't like them as much as you here, Jimmy. I just... and for the reasons you pointed out, I don't know what to read into that first game. It's almost like once you start hearing we knew the plays, it's like, all right, I guess I have to wait to see if this team really is any good. I do think that they are a field goal better at home than the Dolphins, right. And for that reason.
For Darnold to play the way he did after that pick 6 on the road showed me something. Crowell ran the ball very well. I think he's been an underrated back his whole career. So I do like the offense there.
Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. Interestingly, there are some books, mostly offshore, that will open the line before the Monday night game is played.
Okay.
And it was opening there at Dolphins by 1.5.
Right. I remember. I saw Dolphins -1 initially on that.
Yeah. So, just the line is where it should be.
Yeah.
I think without question.
Yeah, the
but
Dolphins
it's just
are not
kind
a
of
better
interesting.
team than the Jets.
Yeah.
So they're not. They're not.
Yeah.
And I think we can leave it at that, and that's why I'm leaning Jets. No, I mean But that being said, I don't think anybody here would be shocked if we're sitting here next week and recounting a Jets-Dolphins game that the Dolphins won 24-16.
No.
I'm not saying that's my prediction.
I was going to say, hopefully we won't be doing that. That would be a terrible podcast. I'm leaning Dolphins on this one, and not strongly. I was hoping this line would keep on growing in the Jets' favor. So the 3 is a little bit, that'll make me standoffish. But Adam Gase is my co-pilot in life. Gase is the kind of guy who keeps these designer plays in his back pocket, and if you're going to break any out, this is the game, like we talked about during the preseason. This is the battle for second place in the AFC. Excuse me, AFC East, not the AFC.
Sure, that'd be great if CBS bills it that way.
What a selling point!
It is.
What a selling point.
That's why we're doing a podcast about it next week.
The division's so bad. We know the Patriots going to win, and the Bills are so shitty. Here's the game of the week to determine second place.
But these really are in the AFC. These are 2 wild card contenders.
Right.
So if you're Miami, you can steal this game on the road. Look, game and a half lead over the Jets. You're going to get him in Miami later. I think Gase is going to keep some stuff in his back pocket and break it out this week. But like I said, I wish it just crawled to 3.5, 4, 4.5, something like that.
That would be a little much. I like how you say Gase has these plays. His quarterback is still Ryan Tannehill. Just remember that.
It is. I'll just say this. My favorite Gase play was, you remember when they almost upset the Seahawks a couple of years ago early in the season?
Yeah, in Seattle.
I think it was the opener, actually. It was. Gase ran this play for Kenny Stills that he had run variations of it over the course of his career. It was literally a play that he probably had in his back pocket for years and was going to break it out at a big moment, and he broke it out. Comes wide open, no one's near Kenny Stills, and he drops the ball.
And
what would have been a game-winning touchdown.
And this would be a big moment in second place in the FC.
This would. You never forget a game like this.
We've talked too much about Jets Dolphins.
I've already forgotten about it.
All right, here we go. This will be a week 2 overreaction game for sure. The Eagles giving 3 into Tampa Bay. Fitzpatrick has the total in this game and now at 44. Gary Gramley, what's going on?
I actually, I hated this game. I'm leaning Bucks only because I think Foles is. I think it's part Foles is a pumpkin again. I don't want to overstate that. I think he's still he's fine. He's fine. They just don't have weapons right now. Bucks are better defensively. I know they gave up a lot of points last week in what was relative garbage time against obviously what's a very good offense. I think the Bucks hang around in this one though. As we see, I mean Fitzpatrick is. I'm actually. Some research scientists should create the quarterback playmaker scale, and it's going to be the Rodgers-Peterman scale. On one end you have Rodgers, the other end you have Peterman. These are the guys, the total boom or bust guys. Fitzpatrick obviously leans more Peterman for the most part, but like we saw last week, good Ryan Fitzpatrick, it can put up a ton of points. So I'm leaning Bucks. I'm not crazy about this. I think there's too much volatility on both sides here.
Scott?
I don't know, Gary, how you can say the Eagles don't have weapons in the passing game. Didn't Nelson Aguilar have like 22 catches for 24 yards in the season opener? I mean, it was something. I've never seen a passing game that's 2 yards in a cloud of dust, but that's what it was. I'm leaning slightly to the Eagles here. I just don't believe in the Bucks. I don't know what happened. I can't explain what happened week 1, but. Yeah, I normally look. I like road dogs early in the season. I cannot pull the trigger on the Bucks here, and I do think that the extra time, having the extra few days off, does make a difference. And I don't love the Eagles, but that's who I would
If
take.
we would have done this podcast 2 weeks ago, and you would have seen Eagles -3 at Tampa Bay, you'd be all over it, all over it. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick goes crazy in New Orleans, and it's oh, this could be close. No. Back down to earth for Ryan Fitzpatrick this week. 24-6 Eagles.
So you like the under there, huh?
I don't think the Bucks are going to score. The 48 points last week, you said it perfectly. Cannot be explained.
Correct.
No, listen, Mike Evans is a big-time receiver. Deshaun Jackson. They have weapons, but I feel like Gary disrespected the Eagles in his little summation there. The offense is this. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. They came out week 1. Everyone was all over Atlanta. They came out, won that game. And I don't see them getting tripped up in Tampa Bay against Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's just me. I love this next game, not from a betting standpoint, but just to see what happens since we just talked about the Bucks. We go right into New Orleans. They get back-to-back home games to start the season. Saints giving 8.5 to the undefeated Cleveland Browns. Total here through the roof, 49. Scott, your thoughts on this AFC-NFC battle?
Yeah, I like a big bounce-back game from the Saints. They're the far better team, and Jimmy, I'll kind of play off what you were just saying. If, sitting here, 7 days ago, 8 days ago, and you said week 2 you'd be laying less than double digits with the Saints at home against the Browns. Do you like it? Yeah, I like it a lot. And if you can't explain it from a Buccaneers perspective, you can't explain what happened from a Saints perspective, you can explain that they dropped 40 points on a below-average defense, and the Browns are also below average defense, although Myles Garrett did look good in that swampy wind and rain.
He looked very good.
I like the Saints here. I just think you can't be afraid of the number, and you can't overreact to week 1. It's just not that many points for a team that was considered top 5 going into the season against a team that was considered bottom 5 going into the season. And it's not like the Browns really
I don't
showed
know
you
about the
ton.
bottom five. That bandwagon got filled up with the total went to 6.5 for the. I think
From my perspective, they're the bottom five.
Well,
that's all that matters, right, Jimmy? I mean, let's be honest.
That is true. But I do think, like you said, if you saw that line 2 weeks ago, you're salivating basically with the Saints at home, not even giving 10.
Sure.
Gary, what do you got?
Oh, I love the Saints in this one. If you ask the Saints defense as a team, what was the easiest game you had last year? It was when they went to Buffalo and faced Tyrod Taylor. They just said we're going to keep him in the pocket, make him beat us that way. He couldn't do it. That was of course 47-10, and you know why the Bills got that 10? Nathan Peterman leading the touchdown drive. That was
What, did someone drop a pick and a deflection?
No, everybody left the building.
I was going to say that's what got him to start the following week against Chargers. But this is the thing with the Browns. You kind of wondered, okay, new quarterback Tyrod is getting the start. Are they going to roll out some wacky option type stuff or something creative with Tyrod? They didn't. They had some creative stuff in the passing game, but they built the offense for Baker Mayfield clearly, and now. Why don't they play Baker Mayfield? That's another conversation about the questionable decision making of the people running the Cleveland Browns. But they don't have an offense that can beat the Saints defense. They're going to play it the same way the Bills played it a year ago, where they're going to try and win the turnover margin by such a great gap that you can get a 6-1 turnover advantage and then tie a team at home. Is Drew Brees going to throw 4 interceptions in this game? I guess that's a possibility, and then I could see the Browns hanging around. But if this line was 18.5, I'd still be intrigued by the Saints.
Bold statement. I'll just say this: I'm gonna go real hardcore X's and O's football analysis here.
Nice.
I will not bet this game. If I had to bet it, I'd bet the Browns only because everybody and their mother, like these two gentlemen, are betting the Saints and love the Saints. Gary's laying 18.5, so that means bet the Browns. All right, let's move on.
Take the Browns in the 18.5, but
and then take the 8.5 too.
Yeah.
Everyone in America will bet the Saints on Sunday, so you know what that means. The Rams coming off their Monday night victory in Oakland, laying 13. This is the biggest line of the week for all the people still in survivor pools after the Saints eliminated most human beings. Rams minus 13 at home against Gary's Super Bowl team, the Arizona Cardinals. The total is 45.5. We'll let Gary start with his Arizona team.
I just want to clarify on this for anyone who's listening for the first time here. Lions were my dark horse Super Bowl team, and I thought the Cardinals were gonna blow away their 4.5 win total. I am kind of rethinking that, but I am going Cardinals. I'm going Cardinals in this one as sticking around. Look, division opponents, Rams coming off the late Monday nighter.
I could see in your face you're struggling to even come up to the reasons why to pick the
I will say, and we're going to talk about the Lions in a little bit, but the Cardinals I thought were the most disappointing team of Week 1. They didn't show up, and that is terrifying with the new coach there and all that. So I fear for my Cardinals win total life there. But division opponents, Rams playing the late Monday game. I think the Cardinals can stick around in this one. That's the nicest thing I can say about them. So that's why I'm taking the 13
I have a
points.
feeling if they don't stick around, we'll never hear you pick the Cardinals the rest of the season.
I'm taking the points here too. I don't have a ton to say on this. I just think it's a lot of points. Team coming off the late Monday night game, and I think there's some Week 1 overreaction a little bit to the spread here. I think that when you look at the way these teams, divisional rivals. I just think they're going to play a relatively tight game, not a 3-point game, but certainly a 7 or 10 point game is too many points.
The Rams are basically put up 50 here, but I'll get to that when we get to best bets. All right, here's one. We'll go right back to Gary's adopted teams this year. Mm-hmm. San Francisco 49ers, Jimmy G, rough Week 1 against the Vikings, -6 at home to the Lions. Total here, 47.5. Hopefully the Lions will not be letting Jimmy G know which plays are coming. Gary?
I was going to say, Matthew Stafford, that's what it was with the plays. Matthew Stafford had some tells at the line of scrimmage. That's how the Jets caught on there. Let's see if the 49ers
Will they
can
fix
do it.
that this week?
But,
Matt Patricia get his pencil out of his ear and fix the play calls?
Yeah, that pencil on the laminated play sheet will have all the answers. In
all seriousness, 6 is, big, a little bit of a large
6 is a
line.
big number. I'm going Detroit in this one. I'm going to tamp down the confidence in my Detroit Lions at this point. But I'm going Detroit in this one. When it comes down to it, 49ers banged up on offense. Jimmy was fine. He was not Jimmy of last year. He's missing a little bit high and wide a little bit. So we'll see. Right side of that line is banged up. Let's see if Marquise Goodwin is back. They're still figuring things out at running back. But I just want to point out, Lions, even though the Jets knew their plays, that was a 17-17 game 5 minutes into the third quarter. It fell apart when they had to start forcing the ball down the field, and then it turned into interceptions, and then it was Matt Castle time, and et cetera. But I'm going with Lions.
The definition of a silver lining. Scott, what do you got on this game?
I'm taking the Lions as well. I'm don't love it. Kind of like it. I'm sort of in between there. I think it's too many points. I don't think the Lions are as bad as they showed. And I just don't think at this point the 49ers should be favored by that many points. Let's see them, kind of in that role. So, don't love it. Kind of like it. I do think the Lions are significantly better than they showed, which I know isn't saying much, but it is saying much when you're playing against 49ers and getting that much points.
Thanks for backing me up, brother.
Yeah, I hesitated to do so, but I got to go with you on that one.
All right, we go to the game of the week now, 425 CBS. Most of the country gets this one. The Jaguars coming off their victory against the Giants at home. They are getting a point from the New England Patriots, total 45.5. I would assume the boys here have plenty to say about this one. Scott, take it away.
I just don't see how, and Jimmy, I'm sort of echoing things you've said in recent weeks, right? Mm-hmm. Until proven otherwise, why would you try to bet against this quarterback-coach combination? And would I be shocked if the Jaguars win this game? No, I wouldn't be shocked if they win this game.
Line's only one.
Line's only one. But, I mean, you just look at what's happened in recent history, and I don't see any reason to believe strongly enough that the Patriots aren't going to find a way to win this game. If you want, some recent history numbers to back it up against AFC South opponents in recent last 21 games against AFC South opponents, they're 21-0.
Wow.
Straight up. 14-7 against the spread. Straight up is even more relevant in this one because it's pretty much a pick'em game. I just think that you look at the Patriots, they're better on the road than they are at home, if you can believe that. But it is true. I mean, they're 11-1 straight up, 9-3 against the spread away from home against AFC teams since the start of 16. There's just so many things pointing in that direction, and what's on the field as well. I just feel like they're going to stop the running game, and they're going to put the ball in Bortles' hands. They did it in the AFC title game last year, and the Jaguars could have and in some ways should have won that game. But I think they're going to take their chances with it again, and I think you'll see Bortles, he's not going to have the game of his life, and I think he did in the AFC title game, and they still didn't win it. So for all those reasons, I'm taking the Patriots here.
I wouldn't bet this game. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to enjoy it. I wouldn't bet it. The one thing I would say is I know I did this. I think last week in picking the Giants, I think I underestimated and disrespected the Jaguar defense a little bit. The Jaguar defense is very good.
That was a crummy day out, too, though.
Yeah. But that defense is legit. They played really well. And, this is a good test for them with New England coming in week 2. If they win this game, we know that, they're set up now for the rest of the season. But, again, I will rarely, if ever, bet against the Patriots. So I would stay away from this one. Gary?
And I'm going with the Jaguars lean here. I think this is their Super Bowl in week 2 here.
Right.
I just wonder how the sort of, that Patriots inversed offense with the running backs and the tight ends, with all the speed you have at linebacker in Jacksonville, I just don't think it's an ideal matchup. I think the Patriots might be out of weapons, not have enough on the outside to be able to beat this defense. So.
Yeah, they've already been bringing in receivers right after week 1, the Patriots, so they want to get Gronk some help on that offense. This game here, we probably won't spend a ton of time on. Denver -6 at home against the Raiders. Disastrous opener for John Gruden. In Oakland, big line though, 6. Gar, what do you got?
Yeah, I Oakland coming off the late Monday night game and going to the thin air, I think is a rough combination. Obviously, they have plenty of a changeover going on there too. They were a little bit banged up after Monday night, so I'm going Denver here. Not that's tough to have the -5.5 when you're a Case Keenum team, but yeah, I'm leaning Denver here.
I'll take the points. Yeah. I don't have a lot to say about it. I think Gary sort of segued in unintentionally there. I'm not laying that many points with Case Keenum in a team that's I'm still trying to figure out really what they have.
Yeah, and the total here is 46, which I think is pretty high, but Denver defense is good. It's an underplay for me, too, with Case Keenum, but again, we'll be watching Patriots-Jaguars at this time probably. Sunday night, NBC, Cowboys giving a field goal to the Giants. We all picked the Giants last week. Let's see who's going to jump off the bandwagon. We start with Scott.
I'm still on the bandwagon, and I'm really. It's more that I'm still on the anti-Cowboys bandwagon.
Yeah, you did well last week picking the Panthers.
To be quite honest, I just think that right now, the Giants are as good a team, if not better, than the Cowboys. The Cowboys have serious issues, and again, I normally don't read a lot into what happens in the preseason, but we started to see signs of it, and with that offensive line banged up, I just think that. It's just way too risky to take the Cowboys here. So I like the Giants in this spot. Can't say I love them because there's still but I like the Giants.
Gary?
No, I complete agreement there. I'm going Giants on this one. Like we said, Giants, they can stop the run. They can't rush the passer. They can't necessarily cover for a long time, but it's not a problem when you're facing this Cowboys team.
Here we go again, because I like the Giants too. Like I said, I'm not going to let week 1 scare me. I think the Giants got did in by a very, very good defense.
Yeah.
The Cowboys don't have a very, very good defense.
Giants aren't good on the offensive line, but the Jaguars are unbelievably good on the defensive line. And
one thing, I thought Eli played well, and Giants usually do well in Dallas. They don't get scared by going into Dallas, so I like the Giants here. And then the week wraps up Monday night with the Bears of the heartbreaker Sunday night, giving 3 points at home. Games in Chicago. They're giving 3 to the Seahawks. Total here 43.5. Gary.
Yeah, I'm actually. I think I'm gonna be a lone wolf on this one. I have Seattle in this one. I'm just not buying on the Bears yet. I think they're still working on what they have defensively. Roquan Smith. All of a sudden, they tried to play him for the entire second half last week. It didn't work out so well. Khalil Mack is still being sort of eased in there. I always say Russell Wilson factor with the Seahawks. I mean, yes, they're not talented on offense, but Wilson can put up your 24, 27 points. I'm not buying what the Bears are doing offensively yet. And you saw it, everyone, if you were on Twitter Sunday night after the first quarter, this offense, it's the new age Bears, and then last 3 quarters. I think their last 8 drives
the old age Bears.
It was 4 punts and a turnover on downs. And
yeah, you have new coaches. I think they get a little tight. Lambeau Field, the Rodgers coming back. I will say, I know it's against the law. I hope I don't get arrested if there are any cops. I know it's against the law to say anything negative about Aaron Rodgers this week. If Kyle Fuller knows how to catch, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers lose and the Bears win. To me, that game became about Aaron Rodgers. It was not. That game was about Kyle Fuller losing the game for the Bears. Bears should have won. I love the Bears this week. I think at home, the fans should be fired up. Khalil Mack is there now. Trubisky did not play well in the second half. I agreed. I think, this is a home road thing for me. If they were on the road this week, the Bears, I'd be nervous. I think at home, though, it helps them tremendously. And they should be 1-0 if their DB did not basically give the game away. Scott?
You knew the moment that happened that the game was over.
No doubt about it. Absolutely.
And it's, you're right. I love the Bears here. I really do. And it's also, look, it's as much as I'm down on the Seahawks. And, I threw it out earlier that 6-24 record. I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the Chiefs and the Seahawks too, are back-to-back road games to start. Not a great road team to begin with. Pete Carroll, 2-11-1 against the spread in September games on the road. So I really do like the Bears a lot here. I think that it's a good matchup for them. I think it's a very weak defense for Seattle, and I think the Bears are going to win this one quite handily.
Now, before we get to our best bets, the one game we did not talk about this week is the Packers, because they're at home with the Vikings going into Lambeau. As of this taping, the Rodgers injury, we don't know if he's playing, not playing. There's no definitive word. I think he's playing. I've had sources tell me he's going to play. I'll just say this. Whether he plays or not, I'm picking the Vikings. Again, the Bears should have won that game last week. I was not impressed with the Packers. I think they're very limited on offense. I don't think their defense is great. I think the Vikings are the real deal. So whether he plays or not, I would bet the Vikings in this game. What do you guys thoughts on this one? We don't know what's going on, but
yeah, I was gonna say if Rodgers plays, I just wouldn't touch the game. I don't know what's going on with him.
If he plays, I don't think he's going to be 100%. I think the Vikings are the better team. I think we talked about in the preseason. I think that I don't know if the Packers are a top 25 NFL team from player number 2 to player number 53.
I agree.
And because of that, I like the Vikings here. I mean, yeah, we have to see what the line is, but I think talking about it now, yeah, Vikings.
All right, Gary, how many best bets do you have here in week 2 of the NFL?
So I got 3. I got the Saints. Sometimes it's that easy. I have the Steelers and I have the Texans.
Right, so Saints minus 8.5, Texans minus 2.
Minus 2 at Tennessee, and then Steelers minus, what do we have at? Minus 4.5. Yeah, minus 4.5 at home against the Chiefs.
So 3 favorites for Gary. Scott, your best bets.
Love the Falcons. And I love the Bears. I would say that those are the ones I'm most confident about.
So Falcons minus 5.5 at home against Carolina, and the Bears minus 3 at home against the Seahawks.
That's correct.
Those are your 2 best bets.
Those are the 2 I'm going with.
I got a slew this week, which is ridiculous for week 2. But I love the Jets minus 3. I love the Jets minus 3 at home against the Dolphins. Eagles minus 3 on the road at Tampa Bay. Sorry, Ryan Fitzpatrick, not happening again. Love the Rams minus 13 against the Cardinals. That's got 38-10 written all over it. And I love the Bears minus the 3 against the Seahawks. So those are our best bets for week 2. And enjoy the games. New England, Jacksonville, 4:25 Sunday. I'm sure everyone will be tuned in. And decent primetime games with Giants, Dallas, and Seahawks, Bears. We will see you next week right here on the MMQB Gambling Podcast.